Some stories stay with you. They get under your skin because they defy easy answers. They remind us that sometimes the world can simply swallow people whole, leaving behind only questions and a profound sense of loss. The case of the Springfield Three is one of those stories. It began on a warm summer night in a quiet corner of Missouri and ended with a mystery that has haunted a community, law enforcement, and 3 families for over 3 decades. It's a story about what wasn't there. No signs of a fight, no ransom note, no credible witnesses to a crime. There was only a disturbing, unnatural silence where life had been just hours before. The date was June 7, 1992. In the city of Springfield, Missouri, life was moving at its usual comfortable pace. School was out for the summer, and the air was filled with the promise of long, lazy days. No one could have predicted that this ordinary Sunday would become the dividing line in so many lives. The moment everything changed from before to after. 3 women, a mother, her daughter, and her daughter's friend, vanished from a small house on a residential street. They disappeared without a trace, leaving behind an eerie scene that has baffled investigators from the very beginning. Their story is a chilling reminder that evil can arrive silently, on any given night, on any given street. This case isn't just about a crime, it's about the people at its heart. Sherrill Levitt, her daughter Suzy Streeter, and Suzy's friend Stacy McCall. They were mothers, daughters, friends, and students. They had dreams, plans, and people who loved them dearly. On that June night, they were simply living their lives, celebrating a milestone and looking forward to the next day. But the next day came, and they were gone. The mystery isn't just about where they went, it's about the complete and total erasure of their presence from the world, as if they were never there at all. Their absence created a void that has never been filled. As we look back on this case, now more than 30 years later, it's the lack of answers that is most profound. In most criminal investigations, there is a trail to follow, however faint. There are clues, forensic evidence, or a motive that eventually comes to light. But with the Springfield Three, the trail went cold almost immediately. It's a puzzle with most of its pieces missing, and the few pieces we have don't seem to fit together. This is the story of that puzzle. A story of 3 lives interrupted, a community shaken to its core, and a question that still echoes through the years. What happened to Sherrill, Suzy, and Stacy? To understand the mystery, we have to go back to the beginning, to the final hours before the women disappeared. The day was Saturday, June 6, 1992. It should have been a day of celebration. Suzy Streeter, 19, and Stacy McCall, 18, had just graduated from Kickapoo High School. Like so many teenagers on the cusp of adulthood, their futures seemed bright and full of possibility. They spent the day and evening attending graduation parties, hopping from one friend's house to another, laughing and making memories. They were last seen around 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, leaving the last party. They mentioned they were heading to Suzy's house at 1717 East Delmar Street. Suzy lived at the Delmar Street house with her mother, 47-year-old Sherrill Levitt. Sherrill was a single mother and a cosmetologist at a local salon. She was described as a dedicated and hard-working parent. That night she had been at home, painting a piece of furniture and speaking with a friend on the phone around 11:15 p.m. She seemed relaxed and was planning her evening. The girls, Suzy and Stacy, decided to go to Suzy's house instead of Stacy's because they thought it might be too crowded there. It was a simple, last-minute decision, the kind teenagers make all the time without a second thought. It was a decision that unknowingly set the stage for their disappearance. The plan was simple. Stacy was supposed to check in with her own mother, Janice McCall, before going anywhere for the night. But in the excitement of the post-graduation festivities, she didn't call. Janice wasn't overly worried at first. It was a special night, and she assumed the girls had simply fallen asleep at a friend's house. The next morning, however, as the hours ticked by with no word, a small seed of worry began to grow. Stacy wasn't the type of girl to just disappear without calling. She was responsible and close with her family. Her silence was uncharacteristic and, as the day wore on, increasingly alarming. By Sunday afternoon, friends and family started to become concerned. Stacy's mother, Janice, and her boyfriend, Mike, decided to drive over to the Levitt house on Delmar Street to check on the girls. They had no idea they were about to walk into one of the most perplexing crime scenes in modern history. They expected to find the girls sleeping in late after a long night of celebrating. Instead, they found a house that was both perfectly normal and deeply wrong. The door was unlocked, the lights were on, but the house was completely, hauntingly empty. The women were gone. When Janice McCall and her boyfriend entered the house on Delmar Street that Sunday afternoon, what they found was deeply unsettling. The scene was not one of chaos or violence, but of quiet, everyday life that had been abruptly frozen in time. All three women's cars were parked outside. Sherrill's, Suzy's, and Stacy's. This was the first major red flag. If they had gone somewhere, at least one of their cars would likely be missing. Inside, their purses were neatly lined up on the floor of Suzy's bedroom. Their keys, cash, and identification were all there. People don't just walk away from their lives, leaving behind the very tools they need to navigate the world. The small details of the scene only deepen the mystery. The television in the living room was on, its screen displaying a snowy static. In Sherrill's bedroom, her bed looked as if she had been reading before sleep. Her glasses were next to the bed, and a book was lying open. Suzy and Stacy's clothing from the previous night was in the bedroom, and they had seemingly changed into night clothes. The family dog, a small Yorkshire Terrier named Cinnamon, was in the house, agitated but unharmed. Everything pointed to the women having returned home and settled in for the night. Whatever happened, it happened after they felt safe within their own four walls. Then, there was the most baffling clue of all: the telephone. Friends who tried calling the house that morning reported hearing a strange and disturbing message on the answering machine. They described it as a lewd or joking message from an unknown man. But when the police arrived, that message was gone. Someone had deliberately erased it. Had the women erased it themselves, or had their abductor? This single missing piece of potential evidence has become a central point of speculation. Was it a prank call, completely unrelated? Or was it a crucial clue, a voice from the perpetrator callously deleted to cover their tracks? Investigators scoured the home, but their search yielded almost nothing. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken windows, no kicked-in doors. There was no blood, no DNA, no fingerprints from any unknown person. It was as if the three women had simply vanished into thin air. The only thing out of place was a broken porch light globe on the front step. Police collected the shards, but it was unclear if it was broken during a struggle or if it had been broken previously. The lack of physical evidence was astounding. It suggested that either the women left willingly with someone they knew, or the perpetrator was incredibly careful, leaving nothing behind. In the absence of concrete evidence, investigators and the public were left with only theories. One of the most prominent theories is that the women were abducted by someone they knew, or at least someone Suzy or Sherrill knew. This would explain the lack of forced entry. Perhaps, one of the women opened the door, believing they were letting in a friend. This theory suggests that the situation escalated quickly from there, with the perpetrator managing to control all three women without a significant struggle. It's a chilling thought, that the threat didn't come from a stranger in the dark but from a familiar face. Another prevailing theory is that more than one person was involved in the abduction. It seems difficult to imagine a single individual successfully overpowering three adult women, even with the element of surprise. Two or more perpetrators could have controlled the situation much more effectively and quietly. This would also explain how they could have been moved from the house without attracting the attention of any neighbors. The neighborhood was quiet, but it wasn't deserted. Moving three unwilling people would have been a high-risk operation, and having help would have made it much more manageable for the criminals involved. Over the years, police have investigated thousands of tips and pursued numerous persons of interest, but every lead has eventually grown cold. Early in the investigation, suspicion fell on Suzy's ex-boyfriend and another young man she had a troubled history with. Both had alibis, however, and were eventually cleared. Another lead pointed to a transient named Robert Craig Cox, a convicted kidnapper who was living in the area at the time. He later claimed he knew the women were murdered and buried near Springfield, but would not reveal the location unless his mother was granted immunity for her knowledge. His story has never been substantiated, and he remains just one of many frustrating dead ends. The erased answering machine message remains a focal point of speculation. Who was the man on the tape, and what did he say? Was he the killer, leaving a taunting message, or was he a friend whose message was unfortunately erased before it could be heard by law enforcement? Some believe the message was a prank from one of the teenager's friends from the graduation parties. If so, that person has never come forward, either out of fear or guilt. The message represents a critical fork in the road of the investigation. If it was the voice of the abductor, its erasure was a devastating blow to the case, a clue destroyed before it could ever be analyzed. The disappearance of Sherrill, Suzy, and Stacy sent a shockwave through the city of Springfield. It was a community that saw itself as safe, a place where people didn't have to lock their doors. This single event shattered that illusion forever. Suddenly, a shadow of fear fell over the city. Parents held their children a little tighter. The sense of security that residents had taken for granted was replaced by a gnawing anxiety. The case became a constant topic of conversation, a local tragedy that everyone felt personally. The faces of the three women were everywhere, on flyers, on billboards, and in nightly news reports. Their absence was a palpable presence in the community. For the families, the years that followed have been an unimaginable ordeal. Janice McCall, Stacy's mother, became a fierce and tireless advocate for her daughter and the other two women. She dedicated her life to keeping the case in the public eye, refusing to let their memories fade. She worked with law enforcement, appeared on national television shows, and followed up on every tip, no matter how small. For decades, she was the public face of the family's grief and their relentless search for answers. Her strength was an inspiration, but it was born from a pain that no parent should ever have to endure. The constant not knowing, the endless cycle of hope and disappointment, is a unique and cruel form of torture. The passage of time has only made the absence of evidence more troubling. In many cold cases, new technology can breathe new life into an investigation. DNA testing, for example, has solved countless crimes decades after they occurred. But in the case of the Springfield Three, there is no significant DNA evidence to test. The crime scene was eerily clean. This lack of forensic material has been one of the biggest roadblocks for investigators. Without a body, a murder weapon, or a clear crime scene, building a case against any suspect is nearly impossible. It leaves the families and law enforcement trapped in a state of perpetual limbo. As of today, in early 2026, the case of the Springfield Three remains open and active. Sherrill Levitt, Suzanne Streeter, and Stacy McCall are still officially listed as missing persons. Over the years, there have been glimmers of hope, a promising tip, a new person of interest, a ground-penetrating radar search of a suspicious location. But each time, those hopes have been dashed. The community still remembers, and the police department still receives tips. But after more than 30 years, the trail is colder than ever. The wound on the heart of Springfield has never truly healed. It has simply become a scar that everyone knows is there. Why does this story still captivate and haunt us more than 3 decades later? It's because the disappearance of the Springfield Three touches on one of our most fundamental fears, the fear of the unknown. We look for patterns and logic in the world to feel safe. A crime should leave clues. A violent act should leave a trace. But this case defies that logic. The women were there one moment and gone the next, leaving behind a silence that is louder than any evidence could be. Their story serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes there are no answers, and the most frightening monsters are the ones that leave nothing behind. Remembering Sherrill, Suzy, and Stacy is about more than just solving a mystery. It's about honoring their lives. They were not just victims in a famous cold case. They were vibrant individuals with futures that were stolen from them. Sherrill was a loving mother building a life for her and her daughter. Suzy was an artistic and spirited young woman just starting her journey. Stacy was a bright and dependable friend with a promising future ahead. We must remember them as they were in life, not just for the way they disappeared. Their story matters because their lives mattered, and their memory deserves justice. Keeping cold cases like this one in the public consciousness is critically important. A single tip, even after all these years, could be the key that unlocks everything. Someone, somewhere, knows what happened on that night in June 1992. Perhaps a guilty conscience has grown heavier over time. Perhaps a relationship has soured, and someone is no longer willing to keep a dark secret. As long as we keep talking about Sherrill, Suzy, and Stacy, there is a chance that person will come forward. Hope is a fragile thing, but for the families and the community, it is all they have left. The story of the Springfield Three is ultimately a cautionary tale about the fragility of life, and the terrifying reality that sometimes questions go unanswered. It's a story, etched not in evidence, but in its absence. The unlocked door, the cars in the driveway, the purses on the floor, they all paint a picture of a normal night that was torn apart by an invisible force. The silence left behind is the case's most enduring and haunting legacy. As we remember Sherrill Levitt, Suzy Streeter, and Stacy McCall, we are reminded that the search for truth, no matter how long it takes, is a search for justice itself, and they deserve nothing less.